Hey guys, we are back with our frogs again today. I am going to start with a fun fact and another vocabulary word. This is a really cool thing about frogs that I haven't mentioned yet, but their ears, they have a circular eardrum on the outside of their head near their eye, and it's called their tympanum, and it's how they hear. So this is the word tympanum. If you guys can see that, that's a big word. Tympanum. It's kind of fun to say. So I'm going to show you a picture of a frog. Let me come up. It's hard to see on our frogs. They're so small. But this is a frog. And right here is its tympanum. And on many species of frogs, you can tell if a frog is a boy or a girl by looking at its tympanum. So if the tympanum is as big or bigger than the frog's eye, it's a boy. So think big boy. So this tympanum is bigger than the frog's eyeball. So that's a boy frog. And if the tympanum is smaller than the eyeball, it's a girl. So I just wanted to start with that fun fact. It's a really interesting thing I like to look at when I'm looking at frogs. Another thing we are going to talk about, I did not put this word on our word wall or on a card to show you, but do you guys know the word habitat? Theo, do you know what a habitat is? What's a habitat?
Where an animal lives.
A habitat is where an animal lives. So a really important habitat for frogs is something called a vernal pool. And I do have that on a card, I'll show you. The word vernal pool. Now what a vernal pool is, I'm going to show you a picture. It's not a temporary depression. It's a depression in the land. So depression means it like sinks down. So sometimes they can just be natural parts of the land that dip down. Sometimes what might happen is that like a tree falls over, and when a tree falls over, it pulls up all of its roots, and then all the earth and soil that were holding that tree in place, they pull up, and it makes like a bowl in the land, which might make a vernal pool. And vernal pools are super important. They're super cool. Lots of stuff happens in them, but they're also super important for frogs, because frogs, we talked about last time that frogs have many predators, unlike toads that don't have many predators. And one way that frogs can reproduce without worrying about their predators, so let's stop for a second because here's the word predator. And does anybody know what the word predator means? Theo, what's a predator?
Something that eats the animal.
Something that eats another animal, yeah. So some frog predators are birds, fish, reptiles like snakes might eat frogs, even some mammals like fox will eat frogs. They have lots and lots of predators. But one thing they do is use these vernal pools to help avoid one of their predators, which are fish. So a fish is going to live in a pond or a lake because it stays wet all year long. And fish need water to live. They breathe through gills. They're not amphibians like our frogs are. So the vernal pool, which is the depression, it will fill with water in the spring from snow melt and rain in the spring. It gets full of water, and then the frogs will come and lay their eggs, but there are no fish in there because in the late summer and fall, the pool dries up. The water evaporates, and it doesn't remain wet all year long. So the frog eggs are safer in a vernal pool because there are no fish that can come and eat them. I'm going to show you a diagram.
Isn't there one in the trail that we maintain?
Yes, there is. So let me see if I can get this in front of the view for you guys. Perfect. So you can see here in the winter, late winter and early spring, the vernal pool, this dip down, fills up with water, okay? So that is the wet phase of a vernal pool. And what's happening during that phase is that the pool is filling up with water. Animals are laying their eggs in there and hatching. And then as we get later into spring, it's going to fill with all kinds of flowers and plants and animals. It's going to be very busy in the vernal pool in spring. That's the flowering phase of the vernal pool. And then as summer goes on, in summer and fall, the vernal pool, the water is going to start to evaporate and it's going to dry up. You can see the land is cracked. The sun is very hot and beating down on it. And by then the frogs and tadpoles have hatched and grown up and they have, you know, moved on, but they stayed safe because there's no fish in here. So that's a really cool thing I just wanted to share with you guys. We are going to take a look at our frogs. Let's see how they're doing. Theo, would you like to feed them? Okay. You can see this guy again. Look how long his front arms are. He's really growing, right? His front arms, I'm sorry, you need to put the food. His front arms are really growing. Much longer than the last time. And look at his tail go. He looks like he's, he has to move his tail so fast just to stay in place, right? So he is going to keep growing. I wonder if I could turn him around, if he will swim away from me or if he'll look at you guys. Oh. There he is. Hi. Can you say hi to our friends at Calvary? He's kind of swimming away. No, he's like, hey, lady, I'm trying to hide over here.
You can see his front leg there.
You see his front legs? Mm-hmm. It's actually kind of hard for me to see them from this angle. Oh, he's going to swim away from me, but you can really see his webbed toes there.
Yeah.
Really see the skin stretching between his toes.
Do we have any female frogs?
Do we have any female frogs? We're not sure what the gender of our frogs are. And these frogs, it might take until they're 8 months old to know if they are male or female. That's a pretty good view. There you can really see the front arms. His tail's still pretty long. He's definitely still a tadpole with front and back legs, not quite a froglet yet. But the arms are definitely growing. Haven't really noticed the tail shortening up at all. So let's see how our next frog, this is our tiny frog. He's hanging out over here. Oh, you can really see his white belly. You pull back a little bit. Oh, he's swimming up. He's a great swimmer.
Does that one have a white belly?
Yeah, they all have the white belly. That's the counter shading camouflage that they have. Again, so if you're a predator in the water underneath them, they look white like the sky. If you're a predator in the water above them, they look dark like the bottom of a pond. What, Theo? No, we really shouldn't pick them up or touch them. Remember we talked about how they absorb things through their skin. So even if we have things on our skin that might not be the best for them, even like soap and stuff, us touching them could make them sick. So we're not going to pick them up.
Oh, you're filming the next guy.
Yeah, we moved on to the next guy.
Okay.
He's looking. Theo's giving him some food. He's looking up like, hey, I see my food coming.
It's like, I see the food.
And our last frog,
One pebble?
he's all the way. Yeah, just give him one pebble. He doesn't seem to eat much, despite changing his water. He is our messiest frog. That's okay. He's messy but happy.
Happy.
He's in there. So I don't know if you guys have been outside yet today. It's pretty warm and humid, but not rainy, so it's a nice day. It's a nice day to get outside a little bit. But we are gonna read, oh, look at him go, he's eating, so that's him using his front legs to push the food into his mouth. That's pretty cool to watch. Oh, and there you definitely get a good view of his white belly. His strong back legs, look at those powerful back legs. Wow, Theo, he really likes the food you gave him. Go back down the line. And our tadpole. So I have like one story and one poem I'm going to read for you guys today. We're going to, the theme, I guess, kind of is listening at the pond. So a little nice kind of relaxing on this hot, humid day. Thinking about a nice, cool pond. Get the camera back on here. And I think I've got it. Thank you, Theo. And you would think I would have the camera angles all worked out by now, right? But sometimes I don't get them right. Okay, I think that should be good. Okay. So, this is a poem called, Theo, can you just check? It's when I sit down and look, it doesn't look like the camera angle is right. Can you check? Am I good? Can they see the book and me? Yeah,
My
okay.
head's not cut off either.
My head's not cut off.
Look at the frog.
Okay. This is a poem from a collection of nature poems called, by Nicola Davis, called Outside Your Window. And I'm going to just read you one poem. It's called Listen to the Pond. So, listen. Can you hear it? Rap, rap, rap. The frogs are croaking in the pond and laying eggs like spotted jelly. I think the illustrations in this book are great. Do you see the spotted jelly eggs down here? Next week, the spots will be wiggly tadpoles. Next month, they'll grow a pair of legs. By summer, they'll be tiny frogs that leap off into the world. And one night, in another spring, when they're big frogs, they'll be back. Rup, rup, rup. So I just liked that poem and those illustrations. I wanted to share that with you. And we're going to read this book today called, well, I guess actually this book is not about listening. It's about looking. But it's called All Eyes on the Pond. But everything that they're looking at in this book is also something you could potentially be listening for. So All Eyes on the Pond by Michael J. Rosen. Here and there around this pond, countless eyes watch what goes on. Listen, they're calling you. Come closer, look and see my view. You can see them looking at the pond. A world of water multiplies within the eyes of dragonflies, whose gazes are kaleidoscopes that spy atop the cattail slopes. So here we have a dragonfly. The snapping turtle sometimes sees the muddy deep, sometimes the trees, and sometimes nothing but inside the painted shell where it can hide. Got a snapping turtle at the pond. From where the spider always clings, the view is largely tangled things, dangling in the crisscrossed strands that weave the windows where it stands. Got a spider with its web. What they can lift and what they can't directs the life of every ant, toting picnic crumbs they've found to store in tunnels underground. We've got some ants at the pond. The snail sees simply what it's on as it glides up a stalk or frond. Where next? The snail can still decide as it glides down the other side. So there's also a snail at the pond. The water strider walks the shine where air and water form a line. What's up above, what's down below, it never has the chance to know. So if you guys have ever looked at a pond, I'm sure you've seen these really cool insects called water striders, and they glide right on the surface of the water. They're pretty cool to watch. That's a water strider. With echoes bouncing through the night, the bat can see without its sight. Soundless shadows, hidden prey, a bat may swoop and snatch away. So we have a bat flying over the pond. To what's ahead, the crawdad's blind. It only sees what's left behind. Whooshing backward by its tail, the crawdad leaves a cloudy trail. So there's the crawdad swimming backward in the pond. Peering toward the breezy air, where clouds are what the branches bear, the bluegill watches at the brink, and flitting things it hopes will sink. Got a bluegill fish down in the pond. So we've got a fish in here. We know it's not a vernal pool. We know it's a pond that stays wet all year. It's got fish in it. That one's called a bluegill. There, beside the fallen log, the yellow peepers of a frog, who waits beside an old tree trunk, nabs a fly, and jumps kerplunk. So there's our frog, and you can see on this frog too, I hope you can see, this frog has a tympanum, and the tympanum is bigger than his eye, so I'm guessing he's a boy frog. Paddling through the cattail shoots, lily pads and toppled roots, a mallard dips and dives and dunks to munch upon the duckweed clumps. So this is a mallard is a duck. You probably see a lot of those around Cranford in the river, right? See a lot of mallards. Chittering swallows skitter so fast and skim the waves as they soar past, keeping an eye on all that's afloat, a branch, a beetle, an anchored boat. So these are swallows. Those are birds. They're really beautiful birds. The pond itself, seen from the sky, appears to be a giant eye. What's it watching, staring back? A storm? The clouds? The zodiac? If you were here, what would you spy with your peculiar human eye? Shh, come closer. What's your view? All the creatures watch for you. So maybe if you have a chance at some point this week, you can go down to a pond and see what you see there. that's the end of that story. I'm gonna shift the camera again so you guys can watch our frogs. I lost Theo, who ran out of the room, but he had some wetland sounds we were gonna leave you with to listen to while you watch the frogs, but I'm gonna go try to find that recording. It might just take me a minute to come back with it. So you can hear some things at the wetland and listen while you watch the frogs. Oops. I think he forgot that he had a class and he ran to go join it. Okay, so let's bring the angle in. You can see the frogs, and I will go see if I can get the music for you guys so you have something to listen to. Okay guys, I have some wetland sounds you can listen to while you're watching the frogs, and see if you can hear any frogs or other animals if you're listening. Okay guys, thanks for coming back and visiting our frogs. We will have another video for you guys again soon.